Hello and welcome to my morning note. Could financial engineering, which got us into such a mess 5 years ago, actually help to cure cancer? That is the fascinating and provocative argument being made by my guest today. He is a professor from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Sloan School of Business, Andrew Lo. Andrew, thank you very much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
So let's start by taking a look at this classic chart of what happened to house prices in the US leading up to the financial crisis, which has to be, I think, an example of how financial engineering can go drastically wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
How did financial engineering manage to create that kind of an increase in house prices?
Well, it was a combination of forces, the perfect financial storm in a word, because you had a lot of incentives across all of the various different stakeholders to create financial instruments that supported the housing market by repackaging mortgages. So all of the various different stakeholders, from commercial banks to rating agencies to investors, politicians, all benefited from rising house prices. And so that process really encouraged financial innovation and all of these alphabet soup of securities to be issued to fuel that housing market.
Now, obviously we all have a great commonality of interest in curing cancer, but if we take a look at this chart that you produced on the returns that have been generated by pharmaceutical companies over the last decade, whether in the private or the public markets, they're very poor indeed. What's going on there? Why is there this problem?
Yeah, that's a real conundrum, because over the last decade, you had some tremendous breakthroughs in our understanding of the molecular basis of disease, particularly in cancer. And so we seem to be on the verge of very, very important breakthroughs in the scientific efforts to try to understand and cure disease, while at the same time, during that decade, we've had relatively lackluster performance in investment returns. And so I think there are a few reasons for that, but probably one of the most important is that the business model for drug development may be broken and we may need to reinvent it.
Okay, now, as I understand it, the biggest problem with that is that it takes an extremely long time to develop a cancer drug, and there's about a 95% chance that at the end of it you're going to lose all your money. How, in a nutshell, do you go about surmounting that problem using financial engineering?
Well, it's exactly right that the characteristics of developing drugs are that it's very risky, a high failure rate, it takes a long time, and it also requires large amounts of capital. And so that's a perfect recipe for using financial engineering. That's really what we're good at, is being able to deal with portfolio issues by reducing the risk of all of these various different projects through financial securitization.
Okay, now let's illustrate that alchemy with another chart you've produced. As I understand it, as we work our way to the left across this chart, we see the kind of volatility, the risk you'd be taking if you only invested in one cancer project, moving up to if you invested in 150 all at once.
Exactly. It's as simple as not putting all your eggs in one basket. If you can't tell whether or not you're going to be successful with a particular drug program, well, maybe you need 150 of them simultaneously in order to increase the so-called shots on goal. With more shots on goal, you have more likelihood of one or two successes. And all you need are one or two successes in order to be able to provide a decent rate of return for investors.
Now, you're obviously thinking very big. Can you just convince me finally on two things? One, is there the capacity in terms of the funds out there to put money into this to make a difference? Secondly, are there enough good ideas out there that we're not going to end up just throwing money at the equivalent of subprime borrowers who have no chance of repaying?
Well, in terms of capacity and resources, we think that it takes about $15 to $30 billion in a single cure for cancer fund that could really make a big impact. Is there $15 to $30 billion? Well, if you look at the venture capital community, the answer is clearly no. In 2010, the entire VC industry in the United States was $176 billion. You're not going to get $30 billion in cancer from that industry. It's just too big a number. But if you look at bond markets, in 2010, the US bond market was $35 trillion. So $15 to $30 billion is a drop in the bucket if you're able to structure this investment as fixed income securities. In terms of capacity from a scientific standpoint, I may be spoiled because I'm at MIT, where we have a number of very talented cancer research centers and many faculty that are engaged in this. But if you look at cancer centers in the US and around the world, we have literally tens of thousands of scientists that have many ideas and are starved for resources. If we can get them the funding that they need, we think we can make major breakthroughs in cancer, even as little as 5 or 10 years from now.
Andrew Lowe, thank you very much indeed. And in conclusion, we are thinking very big. This does sound like a big dream when you start to look at it, but after a while it does look as though it might just be doable. It's a very pleasant change to start thinking of financial engineering as a possible cause for good, but really, why not?